episode 64 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab in Ravelry, you will find our group right there. In that group, you will be able to find great things like the Show Us Your Socks thread, which is one of my favourite places to go on my lunch break and on my tea breaks. And I will also be sharing chatter threads for the episode in the group. So if you want to have a chat about anything that is mentioned or talked about on the podcast, that is the place to do it. I will be sharing quick links to everything I mention in this episode just down below. If you're looking for juicier show notes, I put those on my blog. And again, yep, you guessed it, the link is just down there. As always, a massive thank you to any new viewers. I really appreciate you giving the podcast a shot. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. And to my returning viewers, an extra special thank you to you, because if you have been coming back episode after episode, I don't know why, but you have, and we've been doing this for 3 years, sitting down together, having a cup of tea, having me blather on, and I just wanted to say an extra special thank you because we have gone over 5,000 subscribers, which was a lovely thing to happen around my 3rd podiversary. And I did do a giveaway for that, so if you stick around for Knit and Natter, I will be talking about that a little bit more. But thank you. I was kind of thinking about what's happened while I've been podcasting, and you know, for those of you who have gone back, you will have noticed a lot of change in the background. I have moved 3 or 4 times in the last 3 years. I think it's 3, it might be 4. I have changed jobs 3 times. We're going to call the current incarnation of job change a half, because it's more of a role change than anything else. In that time I've learnt to knit socks, I have started knitting garments, I have done a lot of travelling, I've gone to my first fibre festivals, I have met so many wonderful people. Thank you. Just thanks. Now today it is a bit of a quick one. But the house is in the process of having some bits and bobs done, and our bathroom is being decorated. And I point here because that is the bathroom. That is why I couldn't podcast last week, because obviously when there are people in the bathroom and tearing down wallpaper and sticking it back up again, it makes quite a lot of noise. So I am getting in now, even though it is a grim grey day out. I'm looking out of the window and the sky is completely white. All of the beautiful lighting in here is entirely fake. So my apologies if today is a little bit rushed or a little bit short, but I am trying to squeeze it in between kind of other things that are going on in the house. Which explains why I don't have a fancy tea today. I have my old faithful Earl Grey, and as you can probably hear, this is my first cup of tea of the day, and that is why it's in a swimming pool size mug. While we are on the subject of tea, I wanted to share something with you very quickly. I will obviously be sharing this more nearer the time, but look, I got myself a tea advent calendar from Bird and Blend. I have been talking about Bird and Blend a lot on the podcast over the last few episodes because they were lovely enough to send me some tea, and I also bought some more because apparently you can't have enough tea if you're me. And this popped up in their newsletter, because I do get their newsletter, and I had to have it. I love Christmas, and I really like having various advent calendars. So a couple of weeks ago I went to a Yankee Candle outlet and I bought like a 12 Days of Christmas candle set. It was quite cheap, so I think it was left over from last year, and between that and this and my advent yarn swap, I am going to be a very, very happy knitter indeed. And I know it's a bit early to be saying the C word and talking about the festive period, but I am somebody who kind of does start now. I have started organising Secret Santas. I have started planning what I'm going to buy people for Christmas. And the reason I do that is because partly it's to spread the cost, and partly it is because I don't want to be stressed in December. In December, I want to be making tea, lighting candles and knitting. I will link to the advent calendar just down below. I know it was super popular, so I don't know if it's still in stock, but if it is, I will link it below. And I will be sharing all the different teas, probably on my Instagram, so if you are interested, you can follow me there, and I will be Christmasing it up from December the 1st onwards. Right, well, I've blathered on quite a lot for the intro, really, haven't I? So, shall we move on to Whipped Up? We're going to kick off this week with something that, frankly, I find quite shocking. It's a faux! These are some Christmas socks. It will shock nobody that they are West Yorkshire spinners. The striped main body of the sock is Candy Cane, which is one of their Christmas colourways, and I've done the heels, toes and cuffs in Cayenne Pepper, and it's in their signature 4-ply. And I've used my usual vanilla sock recipe, which I kind of figured out via the videos from Meanwhile at the Castle. So it's my standard cuff down vanilla sock, which I have been working on for what feels like forever. I don't know why, but these just took so long, and I think it's because I made them exclusively travel knitting, and I don't really have that much of a commute anymore, so, and it's quite a busy commute, so I don't really have knitting time, which is annoying. But I think that's why they were so slow. So last weekend, because I couldn't podcast, I decided to just sit down and power through and get it done. And I think, I mean, I don't know which one it was, but I think I was about halfway down the leg, and I powered all the way through to pretty much finishing the gusset on Sunday. And then I just finished up the foot and the toe the following evening. It's amazing how much you can get done when you just sit and decide you're going to do it. I finished it, it's done. We have another pair. So that is 2 finished pairs of socks for my Christmas box of socks, both of which are West Yorkshire spinners. Again, is anybody surprised? For those of you who hadn't seen previously, these are my first Christmas socks. They are covered in hair because I shed like a golden retriever. But these are I think these were last year's Christmas colourway, and the main body is Fairy Lights, might be Vintage Fairy Lights, and I did the contrast in Spearmint, and I love these. I was a bit uncertain about them at first because I wasn't sure about the shade of green, but they're so kitschy, and they do remind me of kind of opening up the box of Christmas decorations when I was a kid, and those kind of colours. So there we go, that is pair number 1. And that's pair number 2. So we are getting there, slowly but surely. I was very proud of myself as well, because as soon as I finished it, I wove in the ends and blocked it. Did not stop, did not pass go, did not collect £200, blocked, woven in immediately, boom. Now, the next one, I don't have that much progress on my toe-up sock, I'm going to be honest with you. Last night was Friday, and I had the evening to myself, and I wanted to just sit and work on my toe-up sock, because I realised that life has been really hectic and crazy and has taken a lot of my brain. As I mentioned, I'm changing roles at work, so I'm having to a lot of my brain is taken up with that at the moment, essentially. So I don't really have the brain space to sit down and watch a video and do it. What I want to do is sit and watch films. So that's what I did last night. I sat and watched Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version. Please don't at me, but I do love that film. That is for another video, another day. But one day I was doing a favour for my old job, and I was covering the desk at the clinic where I used to work. And it was a very, very quiet day. So I decided that because it was such a quiet day, I was going to watch the Hey Lou video and try and put the gusset in my toe-up sock. So this is my toe-up sock, which is knit out of another West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colourway. There's going to be a theme here today, guys. A fair warning. This is the Holly Berry, not Holly Belly, Holly Berry colourway. And again, I'm using the Cayenne Pepper in their signature 4-ply for contrast heels, toes and cuffs. So I just haven't had the brain space. So I sat down one day and I decided I was just going to do the gusset, and I did. And as you can see, it is wider. You can see it kind of curves out. I've tried it on and it fits beautifully. So I really like the fit on this. I just can't get the hang of the heel. I've put the heel in twice. I put the heel in, is it twice or 3 times? I think I put the heel in twice. And I get turning the heel, and I get picking it up, it's when I have to start working in the round again. This looks like a sock puppet, doesn't it? It's when I have to, I can't throw my voice, so I don't know what I'm doing there. I was going to get the top sock to give you its tale of woe, but yeah, I really don't have any brain space, do I? So yeah, that's where I'm struggling with this, just getting the contrast to heel in. I'm really happy with how it's knitting up. It's a very traditional Christmas colourway. I think it will look beautiful in my Christmas box of socks. I just need the headspace. I just need to clear, just spinning this now, stop. I need to clear, this is what I need to do. I need to clear 2 hours in a day, 2 hours. And then I'm going to sit down and work on it. I think what's making my brain ache is that in the Halo videos, which are excellent and I massively recommend them, she is knitting on DPNs and I'm knitting on magic loop. And for some reason that's making my brain hurt, because she'll talk about, you know, you'll knit the first 16 stitches on the first needle, this on the second needle, half of this on the third needle, and I'm going, what does that mean on magic loop? And it just means I have to pause and think and kind of reinterpret that for magic loop, which is not difficult. It just takes more cognitive ability than I currently have when I finish work and at the weekend. But I will get there. Slowly but surely. I am determined to have these finished for Christmas. Determined. So clearly this is kind of some kind of Sockpocalypse episode, because I have got a faux of socks. I've shown you previously finished socks. I've shown you current socks. And I'm about to show you more socks. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. It's just socks. I don't think I had this many socks during the actual summer of socks, Cal. But for those of you who follow my Instagram, you will have seen that I got myself a little payday treat. I, of course, had to get the new West Yorkshire Spinners colourway. And I feel like I have to point out here that I am not sponsored by West Yorkshire Spinners. I bought all of this yarn myself with my hard-earned money. They did not send it to me in return for waxing lyrical about them most episodes. But you know, if you wanted to sponsor me, West Yorkshire Spinners, I would be okay with that. You should call me. I had to buy this. This is Robin. This is their Christmas 2019 colourway, and I basically cast it on as soon as it arrived. I'd finished my vanilla sock, my candy cane socks, and I was sort of last minute babysitting for a friend. I say babysitting, she's 10, she puts herself to bed essentially. I was just there and we watched Bake Off together. But because I had nothing kind of easy to pick up and knit on that was small enough to take to her house, I didn't want to take like a big blanket or anything like that because that's lugging something quite large at this point. I decided that I should cast on a sock, which is what I did. And for someone who took months, I feel like maybe it was months, it might have been weeks. It felt like months that it took me to finish those candy cane socks. But what I'm trying to say is, for somebody who took that long to finish 2 socks, I've got quite a lot done on this one. It's one of those things that it's a fairly new colourway and I just wanted to see how it would knit up. And I've done a full repeat of the stripes. So you've got it's not really a white stripe, it's like a very, very naturally creamy colour, which is really, really beautiful. Lovely warm chocolatey brown, robin redbreast of course, and blue and mustardy yellow, and then back into the cream. So this is, again, I'm using my vanilla sock recipe. This is the West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas 2019 colourway Robin. I think it's just called Robin. I'm also using the cayenne pepper again because I've got a whole ball of it and I need to use it up, and also they're Robin socks. Obviously I'm going to use red as the contrast colour. I don't know how Christmassy this is. It doesn't scream Christmas. It's got red, it's got white. Obviously I'm picking up the red with the cayenne pepper. So it's not super in your face Christmassy. So if you were looking for something a bit more kind of autumnal that would, you know, not scream Christmas, if you flashed a little bit of sock at anyone. But yeah, I will definitely have this in my Christmas box of socks because I love robins. Robins to me are just the most Christmassy of all of the birds. Of all the Christmas birds. So yeah, I think this is going to go I think this will make it into my Christmas box of socks. I'm just not as picky as Amy. Amy Florence of Stranded Dyeworks and the Stranded podcast is the person who originally did the Christmas box of socks that I know of. I'm sure someone else has done it. And I am shamelessly copying her. She's very traditional in that she likes her reds, her greens and her whites and variations on that theme. I'm less traditional. So let's just take a quick look at what my current kind of box of socks looks like. So we have faux and we have whips. And I think they look pretty good together. They're gonna look quite nice snuggled up together inside a really nice box, which I haven't got yet. I need to get on that. But yeah, so hopefully 4 will be done by Christmas. I'm hoping 5, but we'll come to that. Speaking of Amy Florence and her beautiful Christmas box of socks, I should mention that I am currently knitting as part of her Festive sock along cowl. It started on the 1st of October. I think it runs to the 30th of November. Is there 30 or 31 days in November? It ends before December, essentially. So that's also part of the reason that I cast on my beautiful Robin sock immediately, because I wanted to get involved. And I love the hashtag, it's very inspiring. So if you haven't heard of it, do check it out. I recommend getting involved. This is very unlike me, but I do have more to show you. Gasp! Next up is a sort of brand new cast on, and I say sort of because I have mentioned this previously. I mentioned this a couple of podcasts ago, maybe 3 or 4, and I talked about how I'd cast this on and I'd worked on it a little bit, but for various reasons had frogged it. I think I'd spotted that I'd made a mistake in the pattern an inch or so previously, and I didn't want to drop back and correct it. So I was going to just frog back to that point. And then I tried it on and was like, oh, actually this fits a bit too well. It was quite, it's a garment, spoiler alert. It was just a bit too close fitting across here. I think I got to about here and it was just a bit too close fitting. It was going to fit too well and I wanted a snuggly, cozy jumper with a lot more positive ease. So I ripped it out and I have gone up a size, and I've been meaning to cast this on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I never got round to it because brain space, but now I have. And this is the Bittersweet by Vera Valimaki. I am knitting this out of the Yarn Collective in their Bloomsbury DK, and the colourway is Moss. And this is what I knit while I was watching Pride and Prejudice yesterday evening. I then moved on to my sock because I had to start thinking, and I wanted to watch the film and I didn't want to be kind of thinking about increases and following a pattern too closely, so I put it down. So all I have at the moment is the neckband, which is there, which I have got over my, it looks really tight. They always look really small and it panics me, but it fit me the first time I tried it on, and I've gone up a needle size. So I have, as I say, I've gone up a needle size, and I have just moved on to the even larger needles to work the body of the jumper. It's a very simple jumper. It's moss stitch texture on the body and the arms. The neckband is broken twisted rib, and I'm panicking that I've Mobiused this. No, I haven't. We're fine. And it's absolutely beautiful. The yarn is also really, really lovely. I think this will suit me quite nicely. I'm kind of thinking now that I'm looking at it on the camera, it's quite a festive green, isn't it? Do I set myself the challenge of finishing this to wear on Christmas Day? Given what we know about my garment knitting speed, is that the wise thing to do? Oh, I don't know. I mean, do you know what? I'm going to try and finish this. You heard it here first, folks. I'm going to try and finish this in time for the 25th of December to wear on Christmas Day, because it's festive Christmas green. Don't hold me to it though. It's a really simple pattern. I was inspired by Rachel of the Crafty Historian podcast. She did hers in a really beautiful like plum colour, which is absolutely gorgeous. But she did her sleeves in stockinette, which I think I will do as well. I just think that kind of all over texture is going to be a bit much for me. So I'm going to see. I may do stockinette sleeves. But, you know, I say I want to finish it for Christmas, but I may not finish it until 2021. So I may have changed my mind on the sleeves there. So that's a new cast on, and I have got 2 more things to share, and then I'm done, I promise. I have been chugging away on my Cozy Stripes crochet blanket. This is how much I have left of my advent yarn. And honestly, I feel like the smaller it gets, the slower it goes. Because I know how close I am to the end of this ball, and I'm just like, it's taking so long to get any smaller. I've got the basket on my lap here with all of the bits that are going into this. So I have got a beautiful magic ball that my friend Katie of Inside Number 23 sent me. She sent this a few months ago when I was having a bit of a tricky time, and she sent this as like a cheer up gift, and it did cheer me up a lot. So thank you, Katie. I can't wait to get this into my blanket. I think it's going to look really pretty. I've also got some leftovers from my Strawberry Sister Socks by Kate Celine, which I did earlier in the year. So I've got the main body of the sock here, that's the strawberry sherbet. And I've also got leftovers of the 2 contrasty colours. I may put some of these aside. I have actually finished preparing my advent calendar for this year. But you know, I'm a planner. So I did kind of look at these and go, there's quite a lot there. So I could probably get a 10-gram ball out of each one to put away for next year's advent calendar. You can never start too soon. And then I'll put the leftovers in here, because I don't want really, really big chunks of colour when I've got kind of much smaller chunks of colour in here. So let me show you the actual blanket. I'm using the same pattern that everyone else is using, which is Crochet Stripes by Lucy of Attic 24. If you Google Crochet Stripes, how to, etc., that will probably be one of the top searches that you get back, but it's a fairly straightforward thing, so you can probably find a video how to for it on YouTube as well. I'm going to keep it folded so it's easier for me to hold, but there you go. So you can kind of see what I mean. If I did the whole ball of that blue and then that red, I would have a really big fat stripe of blue and then red. And there aren't really any really fat stripes in here. So if you can see my little progress keeper just here is beans on toast. That was where I was when I showed it to you last time. And I have done, I don't know, what's that, 5, 6 inches. And obviously double this width. So quite a bit. I'm not the world's fastest crocheter. But this is what I pick up when I'm a little bit like, with my brain. So, which is happening a lot lately. But this is really, really lovely. I was obsessed with it for a little while. I was pretty much solely working on this one week. And then I thought, I've actually got to finish those socks and I'd like to cast on my jumper. And then of course the new yarn arrived. So, you know, it doesn't help that I just pulled out a couple. Okay, one more and then I promise I'm done. So it will come as no surprise to you if I've been working on my Crochet Stripes memory blanket that I have been working on my Knitted Squares blanket. So yes, this is the Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray, and as with my crochet blanket, I am using various yarns. There will be those of you who remember how virtuous I was at the beginning of the year when I finally got all of my advent yarns into this, which I think was the end of January. Potentially February, and I said I am going to put in a square a week. I'm going to put in a square a week and then I'll put in all my advent yarns and it will grow. It'll be so much bigger than it was. That did not happen. Sorry. So I think the last, I finished the row. I think this was my last advent yarn, and then I had some leftovers. Is this Stranded Ocean Rainbow or Stranded Naive Watercolour? I think this is Naive Watercolour left over from my Colour Affection that I made. So that was where it was finished. And then over here is where I started just general yarns. So this is left over from my Rock and Strings creations. I think this was just like a mini that someone had sent me. I think this is Plucky Knitter. And then these 3 are from my Strawberry Sister Socks. So because they're in here, they can now go in the Crochet Stripes. And I have got in my bag the leftovers from other finished socks. So I have these in the bag. So this is the leftovers from Fairy Lights by West Yorkshire Spinners, and the leftovers from the puddle jumper, baby vertebrae that I did for my friend, and from my industrial kingfisher pavement jumper, which are quite similar. So I won't put those near each other. They're going to go far away. Obviously I will be throwing in the leftovers from my candy cane into the bag as well, because I really want to have all the leftovers from my socks in here, because I'm still really excited and proud of myself that I've managed to learn how to knit socks finally, and that I'm really enjoying it so much. So that's kind of the process. I finish a project, if it's fingering weight, I measure it out for advent calendar. As I said, it's finished, but I'm still doing it. And I then put it into my knitted blanket, and then whatever is left goes into the Crochet Stripes. Everything is used up eventually. I think that this episode really shows you that it is coming up to autumn. I mean, it's officially autumn now. It is getting very cold. It's been very, very rainy. And of course, on the rainiest day, I had to go to Kent for work. So I got very wet indeed. And I really earned myself that cinnamon slice and hot chocolate from Earl when I got back to London. But yeah, I think my knitting kind of reflects the change in the weather. I've been reaching for my blankets. I've been cheerfully chugging away on socks. They just happen to be Christmas socks because that's what I have to hand. And I've been working on my blankets again. So I think that's why I've been so productive. I haven't been out as much as usual because it's horrible, frankly, and I don't want to go out unless I have to because it's cold. And I need a new winter coat, which is on its way, and you don't want to hear about how I am preparing for winter in London. But yeah, that's probably why I have so much on the needles at the moment. So a couple of other things that I'm working on. I won't show you the finished yarn advent calendar because I don't want to give anything away, and I've already started kind of wrapping them. I get just plain tissue paper and I cut out a little like rectangle, put the little ball in the middle and kind of roll them up like sweeties. So that's how I personally do it. So that is something I will be finishing up probably not this weekend. I've got a lot of actual life admin to do. So I'll probably be doing that a few a night over the next few nights. We've got time. This is the beauty of planning ahead. I don't have to stress and rush. I did want to share one non-knitty thing with you before I moved on to stash enhancement. The reason I'm sharing this is because even though it's not knitty, it is makey. It is quite hands-on, and I'm just excited about it. So I thought that I would share it with you. Something I will be doing later today is baking some bread. This is James Morton, who was, I think he was a finalist in season 3 of the Great British Bake Off, and he was my favourite contestant. Look at him. He is cute as a button. He wore beautiful knitwear. He was Scottish. He's basically my dream man. So I loved that season. In fact, that season is excellent because you've got John Waite, you've got Catherine, you've got Brendan. There's some, was Ryan in that season? I think he was. But yeah, I really recommend season 3 of Bake Off. It's wonderful, and it's one of those things that when I need a bit of cheering up, it's either Joy of Painting or Bake Off, usually season 3. But one thing that James was very good at was bread, and so he wrote this book, Brilliant Bread, and I bought this years and years and years ago, and I made a few loaves here and there, but didn't really get into it. My then partner, when we were living in Portsmouth, got quite into making bread using this book, and when we separated at the end of last year and I moved out, he was the one who really got the most out of this book, so I left it. So I left the book thinking, I'm probably not going to make bread. I got chatting to a friend of mine who is German, who was talking about the fact that, I might get this wrong, so apologies to anybody German who is watching, but I think she said in Germany you use live yeast, whereas over here we don't, we use dried, which I found really interesting, and I thought, God, that must smell really good. And I was saying, oh, I'd love to actually make some bread with live yeast, so we're gonna see if we can find like a German shop in London that sells it. And then I thought, well, I don't actually really know how to make bread off the top of my head, but I know someone who does. So I'm really, really keen to get back into it. As I said, I was never kind of a weekly bread maker. I'd made a few loaves here and there, but it's something that I really do like doing because it makes you stop. It forces you to slow down. And I think, as I've alluded to, my brain is kind of wrung dry like a little sponge at the moment, and I could do with something slow and steady and focused. Bread is going to be the thing that calms my brain over the next couple of weeks. So that's what I'm going to be working on once I have tidied up the bomb site of my room, because podcasting is messy. So yeah, I would really recommend this book if you do want to have a go at bread. He has really, really lovely, easy recipes for what I liked about it, and I won't be able to find it now that I'm looking for it on camera. But what he does in here, he does like step-by-step photo guides of like how to do the kneading, the slap and fold, how exactly to do it. And I found that really, really useful, and that's why I love it. And there's a lot of knitwear. He knew why people loved him. The man got his knitwear out. So that's almost it for Whipped Up. That's what I'm currently working on and what I will be working on. I will report back on my bread situation next episode. But there is one more thing I wanted to talk about before we go into Knit and Natter, and that is stash enhancement. Obviously you've already seen some recent stash enhancement because I bought the West Yorkshire Spinners Robin colourway. Side note, every time I've said that, I have said it perfectly. West Yorkshire Spinners. For those of you who haven't seen previous episodes, I normally can't say it, so I'm just really proud of myself. But anyway, I didn't only buy that, I had to buy something else because my lovely friend Amy, who I have mentioned before, does run Stranded Dyeworks. Her hand-dyed yarn is beautiful. I'm a very big fan and I have quite a lot of it. Quite a lot is relative for me. In my tiny stash, quite a lot of it is stranded. And I had to buy her Christmas colourway. Now this is her Gingerbread House Christmas 2019 colourway, and it is stunning. I bought it as a sock set, so I've got Christmas red for contrast heels, toes and cuffs. Oh, it's so nice. I also got it in BFL nylon because it's a base that I've never tried before. It's one of Amy's bases that I've never tried before, and it's just gorgeous. And I can't wait to knit it up. I would have cast this on ahead of Robin if, you know, I had to wind it. I didn't want to have to wind it. I didn't want to have to get the Swift out and the ball winder. Robin was just ready to go. So I've just kind of kept this out, just on my little, it's actually been sitting up here with Scylla the plant, just so I can have a little look at it as I go past every morning. It's beautiful. It's such a lovely speckled yarn. I don't think that I want to do a pattern with it. I just want the yarn to kind of sing and just be beautiful. So I'm really excited to see how this knits up into a beautiful pair of socks. So this is what I meant when I said hoping to have 5 pairs finished for Christmas. So hopefully this will be my 5th pair. And then of course, whatever leftovers I have, I will weigh out for next year's advent calendar because planning ahead, and will put quite happily into my 2 blankets. So yay! Well, that is it for Whipped Up this week. It is turning into a bit of a bumper episode, whereas I said it was probably going to be short. So let's move on to Knit and Natter. So for this week's Knit and Natter is going to be a little bit different because to celebrate 5,000 subscribers and 3 years podcasting, I hosted a little giveaway. And what I did was I opened up a question thread in the Ravelry group and I said, ask me a non-knitty question, and I would pick 3 winners in honour of the 3rd anniversary and I would answer them on the podcast. So if I asked your question, I will be gifting you a pattern from your queue. So if you hear your name, you're going to get your question answered and you'll get a pattern from your queue. There were a lot of great questions in the thread and I noticed that they were all kind of falling into similar themes. So what I've done is grouped them all together for future podcasts. So I'll answer kind of all the London questions, all the kind of like tell us about your family or your background kind of questions, and I will cover those in future Knit and Natters. So thank you to everyone who got involved. I was really happy like going through them and like reading through the questions. Some of them were really, really good. So the first question is from somebody, and I'm going to mispronounce this so badly because we all know how long I've struggled with West Yorkshire spinners and all the S's. So Sushi Shu. I don't know why I struggle, there's so many S's. Sushi Sue. I hope I've got that right. But your question was, did you have a training plan for your half marathon and what was your best motivation to keep you going? The short answer is yes, I did have a training plan. I was using the Virgin London Marathon training plan, the beginner's one. And what I liked about that is that it focused on time rather than distance. So it would say, and it was also only 3 runs a week, which I felt like I could do. So just to scroll back a little bit, I wasn't planning on running any races. I went out with a friend of mine who was training for the Brighton Marathon last year, and she sat down and ate a sharing platter of ribs in front of me. She did not share, and I'm not really into ribs, so it's fine. But I was like, oh my god, where have you put that? Like, how do you eat like that? And she went, well, I'm training for this marathon, I have to eat constantly. I like to eat. I really love to eat, so I was like, maybe I should start running if it means that I'm just going to eat all the time. That sounds great. She was following the Virgin London Marathon plan, and so I followed it as well. And I got really into it, and then I hit about 10 miles, and then I had to take some time off because I had an operation at the end of last year. And then obviously with everything that happened at the end of last year, I got really back into my running because I needed something to focus on, and I thought actually I'm actually quite enjoying this, so I should sign up for some races. So I did. I have absolutely zero desire to run a full marathon. That to me does not sound like much fun at all, and I have no desire to do it just to do it. But 13 miles felt doable to me. So I signed up to do the Grand Union Canal Marathon, half marathon in April, and I will be doing the Royal Parks Marathon next Sunday, so about a week out. I find having races is a really good way to motivate you because you have a race, you have to be prepared for that race. However, before I signed up, I found that the motivation for me was in the training plan. And the reason for that was, as I say, it was only 3 runs a week and it was based on time. So I think I started with a 20-minute run and then walk for 10 minutes, run for 20 minutes, walk for 10 minutes. So it was gradually easing me up. So I didn't feel intimidated to go to the gym or hit the track if it was a sunny day. I didn't feel intimidated about what I was going to have to do. And you know, you can do it for 20 minutes. It wasn't about you have to hit 5 miles. No, you just have to hit the time, which I found for me worked better. Also, I was seeing progress literally from run to run. That slows down later as your runs get longer, both in time and distance. But those first 2, 3, 4 weeks, I was literally seeing improvement from run to run. I wasn't really seeing any changes in my body, so that really wasn't a motivating factor for me. But from somebody who didn't like running, who couldn't really run that well or that far or that long, that was amazing. And so every time I knew it was a run day, I was like, yeah, let's see how far I can go today. And that was really motivating for me. And then obviously I signed up to the half marathons, and suddenly you can't skip a run. So that's very motivating as well. I also, of course, did the Walk the White challenge in May, which was fun as well. I really enjoyed that. So even though I'd just done my first half marathon and I could kind of take a bit of time off before preparing for the next, I kept up my runs and my long walks because I had something coming up. So it's good to have something in the diary. I don't know that I'm going to do any next year, purely because I enjoyed doing the Grand Union Canal insofar as I was glad that I did it for myself. I'm looking forward to the Royal Parks insofar as it's a challenge for myself. I'm not really that into races. I tried to do a few of the park runs on a Saturday morning, and I just don't really like racing as part of a big group. For me, it's something that is very good for my mental health. It's really good for kind of calming my monkey mind, and it's just a very loner activity for me. So it's not something I will probably do again next year. I want to do a lot more long walks next year, so I will be keeping up my running. And secondly, I find 10 miles is my happy place. So when I do long runs, 10 miles I really enjoy, and those last 3, I don't really love those as much. It's probably just because I haven't trained as hard to get those 3 miles into my repertoire. But yeah, I think probably what I'll do is set myself like a monthly 10-mile challenge and just see over the course of 12 months if I can improve my 10-mile time. That will probably be my challenge for next year, and I'll just do that as like a very personal thing. The next question is also a running question, and this was from Mevi Me Time. And again, I really hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm really sorry if I haven't. And you asked, what is your top 3 half marathons that you would like to run if you could go anywhere in the world? I hadn't actually thought about this ever. I knew that I wanted to do the Royal Parks in London because it's such a beautiful run. I'd heard good things about it, and I love London. So why would I not want to do it? And I hadn't really considered it. I know that I want to do some long walks abroad. I want to do some hiking abroad. I was hoping to do it next year, but it kind of looks like I'm going to be buying a flat next year, so I don't know that I could then afford to go on long holidays. But as soon as I can afford it, I want to do Le Chemin de Liberté. Again, my French is terrible, so I hope I pronounced that properly, which is a hike across the Pyrenees from France into Spain, and it's along the route taken by refugees during the Second World War. And I would love to do that just because it is beautiful. It's an incredible thing to do, and the history, it kind of hits all my personal kind of loves, so I would love to do that. There is also another hike I've been looking at, which is a 5-day trek in Iceland. Ideally want to go to Iceland, and this would be absolutely beautiful to do. So those are the hikes that I've kind of got planned either next year or the year after. But in order to answer your question, I did do a little bit of Googling because there are so many places in the world that I want to visit. Let's see if they've got some good half marathons. So first up would be New Zealand. I found one that was along the coast, which would be absolutely beautiful. The views would be insane. I would love to go to New Zealand because it's just such a beautiful place, and I would get a lot of walking in, and you know I love to walk. And of course I want to go and visit Hobbiton. So New Zealand would be pretty high on that list. Speaking of Iceland, there is also something called the Midnight Sun Run in Reykjavik, which I believe is in the evening when it is beautiful sunlight, and I think that would be fantastic to do. That's just such a cool thing to say you've done. I did a half marathon at midnight in Reykjavik when it was sunlight. That would be really, really cool. And I'd be in Iceland, and as I've just said, I really want to go there. So maybe we can fit in 2 trips. And finally is the Great Wall of China. You can do a half marathon along the Great Wall of China. I think this would be horrendous. It looks really tricky. There's a lot of like uphill and downhill, which I'm not great at. And I suspect it'd be quite hard on the old knees because it is a wall and not really nice gentle grass or anything like that. But I would love to do this. I have a friend who lives in China. She lives near Shanghai, and I really want to go and visit her. Again, it's been on the list for a while, but they're quite expensive flights. So it would be great to go and like visit her, do this either at the beginning or end of the trip. That would be amazing. Again, it's just one of those things that would be amazing to have done, like the Midnight Sun Run. Oh yeah, I just casually ran a half marathon along the Great Wall of China. That's pretty cool to have said you've done. So yeah, you know where I said I probably didn't want to do any half marathons next year? If I can get the mortgage sorted next year, I will be skint if I do that. But if I can then save up some money and maybe do one of these the following year, I could be persuaded to lace up my boots again. Yeah. Now the last question is from Obsty, and she did not ask about running. So her question was, you mentioned that you would like to go back to uni for a history degree, if I remember correctly, but what did you actually study? I always love to hear how people wind up where they are, and it would be great to know more about your background. Thank you. You are not wrong. I would love to go back to university and study history. I would do an awful lot if I won the lottery. If I won the lottery, I would buy a home, I would do all the traveling that I want to do. I would probably want to set up some charities and kind of give back and have something to actively work on every day, because I don't think I'd be very good at being a lady of leisure. And I love working in charities. And I think another thing I would do is go back to uni, and I would definitely study history, probably textiles, with a view to looking at historical clothing. There is a new exhibition opened, I think it's opening in the next week or so, at Hampton Court Palace, which I will be going to, which is the lost dress of Elizabeth I, where they think they found one of Elizabeth I's dresses. These dresses are insane. They are political statements. They are ridiculously expensive and opulent, and we have never ever seen one apart from in pictures and kind of in ledger books describing kind of her wardrobe. But they think they found one. So obviously I'm going to go and see that, and that is what I would love to go back and study. But what I actually studied was drama and creative writing. Now I'm going to scroll you back a little bit. When I was 18, it was the last year in the UK before top-up fees were introduced, which essentially meant, I think the price was pretty much going to double to go to university. I am part of a single parent family. My mum is a single parent, and because she was earning below a certain threshold, I was able to get a subsidy to go to university, which basically meant I did not have to pay my fees. However, if I'd waited another year, that would not have been available to me. They would have subsidised part of my fee, and then I would have had to have gotten a loan. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to university if it meant years of debt. And I know student debt is different to normal debt, but it's just not something I wanted if I could avoid it. My original plan had been to take a year out, do some work, do some travelling, and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. But I decided to take advantage of a free education, which was an incredible privilege for me and was not available to everyone, and I felt like I had to take that opportunity. So I chose drama and creative writing, which were my great loves. There was a part of me that wanted to be an actress, but then when I got there, I very much and I did do a lot of acting, but I did focus a lot more on the kind of more academic side of drama, which I loved. And yeah, I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. My plan by the end of the 3 years was maybe to go into screenwriting. That didn't happen for various reasons I'm not going to go into. And I kind of did lose my way a little bit after university, because I was like, well, you know, I wanted to be a writer and an actor, and yeah, okay, that hasn't happened, because I was a reasonably good actor. I got a first for my final dissertation performance. Fun fact, in my final dissertation performance, I played a woman called Fanny Price, which is about as close as I've ever gotten to being a Bond girl. And I loved acting, but I just didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was going to be a great actress, and therefore I was kind of like, I don't want to do it if I'm not going to be amazing. Looking back, I probably should have just practiced more. But anyway, side note, I loved writing. Screenwriting didn't come off, but you know, there's plenty of time, you never know what might happen. And I did finish a novel while I was at university. It is unpublished. I kind of get it out every now and again and play with it and edit it, and wonder if I should put it on Kindle. I don't know. And I am hoping to do NaNoWriMo this year, which is National Novel Writing Month. All of this is a side note. Anyway, I finished uni and I had a first, and I didn't really know what to do. And I kind of bowled through several jobs and eventually landed on working at a clinic, which was a musculoskeletal clinic in quite a nice area of London, and I was just sat on the front desk, and it was just basically to have some money and while I worked out what I wanted to do with my life. I eventually worked my way up to doing all of their marketing and communications. I say worked my way up. It was an incredibly small clinic, and I was bored, and I just said, look, do you want me to write some blogs and all of that? And eventually I kind of grew that element of my role. And then when I moved to Portsmouth, I moved into a marketing agency, and I hated it. I absolutely hated working in an agency, couldn't stand it, would never go back to it. And then I came back to London and I worked for Love Crafts, where I wasn't really doing writing or anything creative like that. It was very much focused on my organisational planning stuff, and I was responsible for getting things on the front end of the website. When I left there, I moved to the job that I'm currently in, which is in charities, and it's amazing how you can kind of fall into a job and find your thing, your love. I love working in charities. I love feeling like what I do has a positive impact in the world. That is a really, really good, it's an incredibly selfish feeling, but it's a really good feeling. And I think it's unlikely that I would leave the charity sector now. I'm aware that I could get better money in corporate, but I wouldn't get the warm fuzzies, and they're important too. And I kind of started out just doing social media for the charity, and then I started picking up design work, not doing the design, but like liaising with the designers and creating briefs and doing all of that. And I've gradually, over the course of the last 18 months or so, it's coming up to 2 years, just been kind of doing all their comms, and I love it. When I did leave uni, there was a period of unemployment, and I remember going to the job centre, because you had to go and you had to check in. I think it was every other week, and you had to like prove you'd been looking for work. And it was easily the most demoralising experience of my entire life. And I remember sitting down and they were like, what are you looking for? And I was like, well, I'm a recent graduate, so like a graduate scheme would be great. And like, I've got this degree, so it'd be great to work in like, you know, museums or like comms teams or anything like that, because, you know, that ties into my degree. And I remember this guy, and he can't have been much older than me, really. And he went, yeah, nobody ever really uses their degree after uni. And I was just sat there like, okay, I didn't pay for this, I don't have debt to show for this, but I worked really, really hard to get this degree, and now you're essentially telling me that it doesn't matter. And I found that really, really upsetting. So there is a little part of me now that's like, yes, because I am using my degree. You know, the critical thinking that I, you know, did with my drama academic essays, all of the comms work I do is directly linked to the fact that I did creative writing. So take that, buddy. But yeah, that's kind of a very convoluted and slightly garbled history of my education. I loved university. I don't think I tackled university in quite the same way other people did. I did a lot of partying, don't get me wrong, but I was absolutely 100% there for the education. And I really dug in deep, and I was the person who in the first week of the semester would be planning everything. So I never pulled an all-nighter, because I'd pretty much finished everything a week before it was due, because I'm annoying like that. I just don't like to be stressed, and I will do everything in my power to avoid it. And yeah, like, best laid plans did not come to fruition, and I have somehow found myself in a position that I really love, and yeah, just makes me happy. So there you go, a lot of insight into me and into running. And as I said, there were a few other questions about kind of my background, and there were quite a few other questions about running and exercise, etc. So I have already grouped those together, and I will talk about them more in future knit and natters. So if your question didn't get answered this week, it will be answered in future at some point. But for the 3 people whose questions I answered today, thank you so much. You are the giveaway winners, and I will be gifting patterns to you at some point this weekend. Well, that wasn't a short episode, was it? I've just heard everyone come home, so that's probably a good time for me to finish up my tea, tidy my room. I just dump everything on the bed. So now I have to go deal with that. Yeah, so now is a good time for me to go and deal with that. Maybe have another cup of tea when I finish, and I wish you all the very best. I hope you have a lovely knitty couple of weeks, and I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care, bye. You can tell that I was in a bit of a rush this morning to get on camera, because my hair is a bit damp. Ooh.